Hi, I'm Rashid Khan, founder and CEO of Evacuation. So I'm bringing this small series of uh, some social topics which are impacted by COVID-19. They also some business topics, some small and medium industry topics. So we'll be covering as a whole in this series few topics which have been impacted or few sectors which have been impacted by COVID-19. The first of this series is a very important topic and which is about the future of security and emergency management, especially looking at what the incident happened yesterday in Beirut. Uh, it's, it's very vital to talk about these emergency management scenarios. But how it has been impacted by the previous pandemic, which is still inactive, uh, COVID-19. I got a very special guest to cover this topic. I'm a personal admirer of Craig Sharkie, who is an industry expert, security and risk management expert. And today he will talk about all these things, but let's first introduce himself. Up to you, Craig.
Hi, Rashid. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate the invitation to speak to you and the audience. It's a very important topic, as you've said. We have a world which is currently experiencing things it never has before and a lot of change. So security and emergency management is really important. Obviously it's causing a lot of concern and people need to be confident and know what's going on so they can help themselves. So it is a very important topic.
Can you tell a little bit about yourself, Craig? Because people wanted to know Craig Sharkey.
Sure, I've been involved in policing for a couple of decades and been a security and emergency management consultant now for 16 years, helping some of Australia and the world's biggest companies and most iconic brands with their security and their risk and their emergency management. So it's a topic I'm involved in every day. So I see widely the good and the bad and the things that we can learn from and the things that we can improve. So it's very interesting watching how the world evolves at this point in time and how these topics are becoming front of mind for a lot of people.
So looking at your background with security, let's talk about the security at present. So what do you think from the customer point of view and from the vendor point of view, the people who are in the security business, who use the security services, how the sector is looking like today? Like what's this present state?
Well, it's an industry which is rapidly changing, and so it should because the world is changing. For many years, there were two sides to security. There were the customer, the company, or the person that needs security, and their needs were very known and very consistent. Protection of the home, protection of the business, protection from the person that walks in the front door or could steal from you or could create damage to your business. That has changed over the last decade with the use of technology and how the risks are appearing in different technological products and how we operate as businesses, but also more recently with COVID-19 and how people are responding to that and how their work habits have changed. So the security sector, the people who provide security, their businesses are also adapting and what they can offer to people is also adapting. So people have got to be mindful and see what's right for them and make sure that what's being provided is still fit for purpose or what they need right now, because what might be needed now isn't maybe what they needed 2 or 3 years ago.
The way the security sector is moving, like we see, it is becoming multifaceted. So it's becoming a lot of services, as you said. So do you think it's good for business from the customer point of view and both from the vendor point of view as well? Like how good impact it is making?
So from a customer perspective, everyone's different. So if you were working at a university, your security needs are different than if you were running a shopping centre or working in a high-rise office building or in a car park or in a manufacturing environment or warehouse. So you have to look at what your needs are, and there are plenty of companies out there offering services, but it's a matter of making sure they tailor what they're offering to what you need right now. the companies themselves who are offering it, a lot of companies are moving to a model where they can offer more than security. So there's a lot of companies out there now that can offer you under a single contract to look after your company's office cleaning, your car park needs, your health and safety, your fire and emergency management, your building maintenance. So these things are new offerings, and a lot of companies want to get a contract that allows them to do everything. Obviously, there's profit and money in that, but you have to make sure that what you're getting is what you're getting what you pay for, and that you're able to manage the quality of what's being offered as well.
I think that because you are from the risk background as well, so doesn't it put a little more risk from the customer? Like if I'm a customer and everything is being provided to me and one day that company shuts down, do you think that can pose a little bit of risk in that domain as well?
Yeah, absolutely. On the face of it, a single contract and a company that might offer you everything might be really enticing. There's less to manage. You might get a better value for money, but that doesn't always translate to the end. If it's a security company that are offering you cleaning and building management, that might not be their background or their expertise. So they might offer you terrific security service, as they always have, because that's their experience, but they might drop off in other things. So that takes you extra time to manage and stay on top of and make sure that you're getting what you pay for. So it might look attractive, but it's not always attractive unless you get the right provider doing these things for you.
Okay. Coming from the monetary side, because a lot of people tend to move to this model because of there's a lot of financial advantage and there's less to manage and all these options. But do you think across the board, like across the world, across the globe, do you think enough attention has been made and enough financial investment has been made to the security sector?
There's two parts to that, and one is yes and one is no. So as we move to using more technology in our workplaces and even at home, there's a lot of investment on cybersecurity, and there has been over the last 5 years, and that'll continue. The trend will continue for another decade to come, because the threats that are emerging in the cybersecurity space are highly sophisticated. They need great technology, great people, and very skilled people to be able to set up your detection and your response and protect your business and your technology. But the people who are doing these things that might pose a threat to your business might be on the other side of the world. Traditional security, however, is a little bit different. What they used to be called the guns, guards and gates of security. So the security guard at the reception desk, the security guard sitting at a gate or in a control room watching cameras, they're looking for risks of people that are right there in front of you or that walk in the front door. So there hasn't been the same investment in those people, because obviously a lot of investment by companies is now in the cyberspace. And I think that more needs to be done in that space, or companies need to continue to maintain or keep their attention on physical security and emergency management as well. Those things haven't changed, and there's certainly most companies, they owe a duty of care to their employees, and that's never changed. So you still need to protect the people that are working for you or your customers from harm, and that needs to continue.
That raises another question as well, because from the training background we see there's constant training going on for the staff members of an enterprise. But when you look at a little bit of disconnect from the front end of the security, the people who are managing the front end, the people who are the face of that, the security space. So there's a lot of things that changed in the last 10, 15 years. There's the emergency management as a whole. There's a lot of new scenarios in business now because of, the whole social and global security. But you think our security people who are the front end of the business, have they been trained enough? Have they been skilled enough to tackle these new emergency threats?
In my experience, no, they have. they've been trained in the old, checking passes, watching cameras, sending a response, sending a patrol, making sure they lock doors. And these things are all still valid and still needed. But there are different emerging threats. In certain parts of the world, drug use is a real factor. So the way that people behave and how you need to respond to them is different. So you need to be trained and be taught what to look out for, how to respond, how they might react, how you can protect yourself and the people around you who you're paid to protect, as well as some of the insider threats. Some people that might work for a company are a risk to a business because they might want to steal from the company, take some of the company IP. And security guards need to be more alert and trained in what to look for and how they can add value in identifying and responding to the new risks that are being experienced by companies around the world. To simply put on a uniform and check people's passes is still valid, but it's not adding as much value as it could because the risks have changed over the years.
It's apart from the regulator side as well. Whoever the regulator of that particular industry is, like license division, or in other states, there's different bodies who govern all that. Do you think it's the part of that governance process where they should add value and they say, no, we need to uplift these people or upskill these people to that level when they are renewing their licensing and certificates? Or do you think it lies with the enterprise itself? Like enterprise takes the responsibility. No, our frontline guard hasn't been trained enough, active shooter and all that. So you think what's the balance of both? Where the liability sits? What's the balance?
It's a really important thing, and it's a really terrific question. Because companies have to know what the risks are associated with the company and write procedures and do training with their staff on how to protect from those risks. And they are constantly doing that, but they need to involve people in a better way and get collaboration and input. But there's a lot of responsibility also on the people that work in the security industry. The guards, for instance, they need to provide for themselves and make sure they upskill themselves and maintain awareness of things that are happening in the industry and threats and security. And they can do that by engaging in training, but also joining associations and forums and reaching out to other people in the industry and learning from them. I've always found that it's far less painful to learn from somebody else's mistakes. So listen to what happens to others, how they responded, what they did right, what they did wrong. Ask questions. Seek a mentor in the industry that you can learn from. And these things are really valuable so that they can invest in themselves and become true professionals. And then that also allows them to get a better reputation and market themselves and get better employment and things like that. But companies also need to realise that the people they have working for them and in the security space will impact their reputation. We have a case in the state I live in Australia at the moment where the behaviour of some people in the security sector has really impacted how the state's health system is now impacted by COVID because of some things that might have happened or some things that they might have taken shortcuts on. So everything you do in your day-to-day life impacts your reputation and can have severe impacts. So it's really important to invest in yourself and continue to improve and share information with others.
You're absolutely right there. I think you nailed that point. If just one single person or a single organization can impact the way we have just seen what happened. Do you think the way the world is changing today, what are the keys to making sure that the security and emergency management is fit for purpose?
There's a number of points, really key ones. The first one being know your risks. So fully understand what the risks are to your environment or your location or your industry. The people working in security in a factory or a warehouse is different than a hospital or a university or a large corporation. So you have to constantly assess the risks that are around you and continually write new procedures, new training, share information, share ideas, see how you can control those risks. You can't just sit back and expect that the risks you had 5 years ago are going to be the same as the ones you experience now. You might be a company that's taken on a new product. You might have moved into a new territory or opened a new factory in a new location. And those are different risks in that particular location than the last factory. So you need to constantly assess and not rest just that what you had a couple of years ago is still current. That's one of the first keys. The second one is communicate. So people who work for you and look to the security industry, especially in times of emergency or crisis. They look to the man in uniform, they look to the police and fire services and ambulance drivers and medics and security guards. They look to those people for direction, but also for confidence. So you need to have the right people there and communicate with them about what they can do to help protect themselves, protect the people around them, because knowledge is power. And the more information and education a person has, the more confident they feel and are going to be able to respond more positively and more effectively. So communicate with those people around you. And the third part, I think, is taking on, making everybody an ambassador for security. So that the workforce, it's not just the security guards that are out there looking for things that aren't right. But you need everybody to be your eyes and ears and speak up. Create a speak up culture where every employee knows they can pick up a phone and say, there's a person here behaving in a way that makes me uncomfortable. There's a door here that's not closing properly. There's a light that is not working, so I don't feel safe walking along this path or to the car park. So encouraging people to speak up and reward them for doing that really creates a culture where everybody is security aware and feels that they've got a part to play in being part of the solution.
I think the key point which I got from this conversation is, I think empowering your staff, like you empower your staff to a level where they feel comfortable enough to talk about these issues. I think empowering one thing, and awareness. Obviously, you need to make them aware that this is valuable information that might not be that significant at that point, but that can or may impact in a bigger way at a future state. So I think that's a very valid point. Coming back to emergency management, do you think emergency management is changing the way we think other sectors are changing? Because from emergency management point of view, when you look at our guards have been trained in that scenarios and all that, but the scenarios are changing so rapidly. Like in the last 10, 15 years, people who are using these licenses, I think they got licenses for 20 years, 25 years, and they have been trained on a very old school scenarios like only fire and evacuations. But there has been a lot of new scenarios which we can see have been added, like active shooters have been added. The terrorism has been like very volatile area for last 15 years. Then we look at civil unrests in some parts of of the world. So what do you think how emergency management is changing in that direction?
Yeah, and you're exactly right. And I know you've been working in this area for a long time and have a lot of experience and credibility. And you've seen it the same as I have. We both worked at one stage for a company who was the first large bank in Australia that didn't just practice an annual evacuation of a building to make sure people knew where the exits were and where they had to go if they had to evacuate their building. But we built in what's called sheltering in place and lockdown. And we were the first to do that. And that's evolved through things that we've seen happen around the world and the need for those changes. And, it's common sense in some respects, because you say, if the alarm goes off in my building and everybody by habit just goes outside, they might be moving into an area of more danger outside. It might be safer for them to stay inside. So they need to have practiced and know that there's an option to stay and shelter in the building, or lock the building down if there's an intruder in the building, and protect themselves and keep that person out. So those are things that have evolved from incidents around the world, and they needed to. And to those people who work in buildings or in companies that only practice evacuation, I would recommend that they speak to their managers or the owners of the building and say, can we train in these other things as well? Because we might need them one day. The safety of the employees, every single employee, is one of probably the most important thing a company has as a responsibility.
Absolutely. I think I will take an example from the very current scenario, which just happened. Like what we have seen in Beirut, what happened there in Lebanon is that massive explosion of, which impacted a lot of other things. So if everyone is practicing the same, if everyone is been practicing only evacuation and, the bomb threats and all that. So this scenario was very different. So this is like a sheltering in place. You need to take shelter in place within your home or a specific spot. So if people are not trained enough, obviously, the things can go pear-shaped pretty quickly. And the training is a very important segment into that. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, and you also need a number of options. You can't just have the one option that everybody goes out a particular door and everybody heads to the same place each time. As we saw with the tragic incident in Beirut, so many buildings were damaged, so many streets were blocked, so many things collapsed and would pose a danger to people who might be heading to somewhere where they had to evacuate to. So you need a second option. That door is blocked. We need to use this door. We need to go out the other side of the building. We need to go to a different place that's in safety. So you need a number of options in emergency management always, because option one might not be the best practice.
Coming back to emergency management, we already had a lot of difficulty in managing all these new scenarios, and on top we got COVID-19. So the world has been hit by COVID-19, and what do you think? We were already on a verge of, where ideally we don't want to be from training perspective and from awareness perspective, and now we've been hit by COVID-19. So what do you think how COVID-19 has affected that security and emergency management space?
I think it's going to have a lasting effect, and I'm really proud of the companies I've been watching and monitoring and speaking to around the world in how they've responded to COVID, how they've adapted their business continuity and their business resilience plans to accommodate people having to work from home, or some offices or buildings that might need to be closed or might need to be only work at certain times of the day, or how they test people as they come into the building to make sure that they are not going to infect anybody. What's been done around the world and so quickly is fantastic. But I think as these companies change, and some of them will change permanently as a result of this, they need to continually reassess their risks and how they manage security. They still owe the same duty of care to their employees. And for a lot of people working from home, if they're in an office job, is now an option and something that they might continue for some time. So their home environment is now their office and their work environment. So they need to have procedures in place and make sure that that is safe, that their home office is safe. How they know if something happens, this is how to respond. This is how to raise the alarm or communicate with somebody that can get you help. This is how I can find out what is happening around me so I can stay safe. So these are, and for offices and buildings, for instance, there are a lot of new buildings now that might have had hundreds and hundreds of workers. And now there's only a handful of people working there. So the people that might have been trained as wardens to help people evacuate and get to safety in an emergency, they might be working from home now. So who is going to be there to help the workers that are there now? Who is going to check on the people that are working by themselves or at night or alone or travelling that weren't before? There needs to be some kind of practice in place. So companies have a small window of opportunity now. Now is the time to reassess how they are working and going to work so that they can change their procedures, put the technology in place to help get messaging to people and support people in their new, I don't like the term, but it's the new normal. But, you know, to help people evolve to the new environment that's going to be around them.
Now, that's a perfect point of view you have made from the security and risk perspective. I think that's it's so much evolving right now. Like every day we hear about the the new technological disruption is coming into place. The cameras have got the thermometers which can assess people's temperatures and all that. So there's a lot of things happening from the technological perspective as well. So I think as a whole, you think the technology is helping in this space?
Absolutely. And any company that sits back and relies on the technology that they put in place 5 or 10 or 20 years ago really needs to reassess that. Years ago, if you worked in a building, if there was an emergency, you would hear an alarm over a speaker, and a warden on a PA system saying, please evacuate. And that was the only way you found out that there was an incident or what you needed to do. But now all of us carry a phone. We have technology in our pocket, and we have the ability to get communication and advice right to the palm of our hand that can be updated every minute with how things have changed and how you need to respond. And the technology that companies should be investing in to personalise advice and how people can help themselves is a really wise investment. That the companies still owe a duty of care to these people, but now we have technology that puts the things in the palm of your hand. And not, as I said before, knowledge is power. So you put advice and awareness in the hand of your employee, and they can have confidence that they can get themselves to safety or protect themselves and their friends and colleagues and family.
I think that's a great take from a risk and security expert. I would like to say thank you so much for taking the time and being with us. Any final words you wanted to add from the topic itself and for the broader community?
From the broader community, I'd say aware of what's around you, and for people in business or working in the security sector, continually reassess changes and how things are impacting you and what your risks are. This is a very strange year, 2020, so things are changing all the time, and what might have been applicable months ago might not be now. So stay on top of things and engage with professionals in the industry and ask advice, because there might be things that you haven't thought about that they can give you advice on and help you protect yourself or your family or your business.
So much, Craig, for coming on board and giving us this brilliant piece of knowledge. And I think that's a great thing for everyone around us, people to know and understand that they are security experts who got expert opinion on things, and they have already assessing and doing all the hard work. So people don't have to reinvent the wheel. They just need to contact these security experts and they will get the proper knowledge for their enterprise. Thank you so much, everyone. Hopefully we'll see you soon in another episode for all these post-COVID-19 and emergency management, security management, and domestic violence issues. Thank you. Goodbye.